I started playing drums when I was 10 years old. I was in the 5th grade, and I saw Dave Goff, who was a drummer at my church, drumming on a Sunday night, and I'd never seen drums in church before, so I sat in the front row with my eyes just wide open. I was glued to watching Dave play drums, and this little concert that they were playing, I asked my mom, or told my mom I wanted to play the drums. And so she asked Dave if he taught. Now, Dave was in high school at the time, and he didn't teach, as a profession or even on the side necessarily, but because it was me and I was interested, he said, sure, why not? And so I think I took lessons for a summer between 5th and 6th grade from Dave Goff. And Dave was just so excited about drums. The passion that he had for drums was really infectious and inspiring, even to a 10-year-old. And so that was just put me on this path, and here I am, 50 years old, so 40 years later, and I'm still playing drums and still in love with drums and still in touch and hang out with Dave occasionally, and he's still just as enthusiastic about drumming as when I first took lessons from him all that time ago. And so I got involved with middle school band, 6th grade, and I wanted to play the drums, and I saw that all the percussionists had to learn to play the bell kit, and they were hauling around this giant bell kit, and I thought that looked like a lot of work, and I wasn't interested in playing the bells. I was interested in playing the drums. And so because in the 6th grade they weren't playing the drums, I thought, well, I'm not going to do that. And my friends were playing clarinet, so I picked up the clarinet and started playing the clarinet. Then my family, we moved to Washington, and the school there, the band program was very, very small. Again, didn't have any drumming, so I just kept playing on my little drum pad that Dave had given me, and with I think the sticks were aluminum, and kept playing because I still loved drumming. And then when I got into 7th grade up in Spokane, the school I went to, that music program fed into the big high school program, which was huge into marching band. And so I joined the band program, but it was just for percussion. So there was me and maybe 30 some other drummers in a room playing on pads, and 7th grade, and we had to learn to play traditional grip, which, if you don't know what traditional grip is, this is match grip, playing this way. Traditional grip is the stick in the left hand is held like this. You probably, and some people try to imitate that grip. 7th grade, learning traditional grip was extremely, extremely important. Fast forward to 2020, 21, 22, 23, there's this big wave, especially in our area, that traditional grip is too hard, it's too hard to teach, blah, blah, blah. No, traditional grip is not hard to teach, just teach it. It's really an important skill. So again, I'm in 7th grade, and that is the requirement. 40 of us in a room, 7th grade, had to learn to play traditional grip. It was because that fed into their marching band program, and it was so incredibly important to them that those drummers knew how to play traditional grip. But again, it just kind of comes in waves. Sometimes it's really popular. Sometimes everybody's pushing back to go to match grip, playing this way, and so on and so forth. I think if you're going to be in the marching arts, you've got to learn traditional grip to play snare. And even just like on a personal level, it's a good thing. All that being said, so my experience growing up was heavily in education. And while I was in high school, I had a band director that was extremely encouraging. I call him the yes man, and he always looked for opportunities for his students. And so when there were opportunities to play drums or play percussion outside of school, he would recommend me or one or two other people that I was in school with to do certain things. And so my first paying gig was to play 3 timpani drum rolls for the Miss Teen Idaho pageant that happened at Jewett Auditorium in Caldwell. And so I played those 3 drum rolls. I'm the only one in the orchestra pit staring up at these 30 beautiful teenage girls and playing 3 drum rolls, and I made $50. And so that was, I call that was my launching pad to my professional career as a musician, was doing that. And so, you know, my band teacher was really encouraging, looking for those kind of opportunities. And then I also had 2 other drum instructors that I took lessons from at American Music in Caldwell while I was going through high school. And that was super cool. Both those guys were also very encouraging and just on fire for drumming. One of them that I took lessons from was also going to College of Idaho. And so I took lessons from him until he stopped taking lessons. So once those guys stopped teaching lessons at American Music, I didn't have a drum teacher anymore. And so I'm 17 years old, and I go walking to an American Music, and Don Christensen was the owner of American Music. And I went walking in, and he said, "There's our new drum teacher." I'm looking around like, where's the new drum teacher? And he's pointing at me. And I said, wait a minute, I can't teach. I'm 17 years old. I'm in high school, you know? How am I supposed to teach? And he said, look, let's get together. Let's talk about this. And we could talk to your parents. And I think that you would be a good fit, at least to teach beginning drum lessons. So he came over and you know, he listened to me play, and I kind of told him a little bit about what I knew. And he said, great. He goes, I think you'd be a perfect fit for people who want to come in and who just need to get started. Just show them what you know how to do. You can play drums really well. Just show them what you do and what your process is. And so that kind of changed my whole way of thinking. And then I also thought about, okay, well, how did these other guys teach me to do what I know how to do? And now I'm relaying that information to this next group of students. And I taught American Music in Caldwell for a couple, maybe 6 months or so. And, you know, there was also a little bit of nudging like, hey, you're teaching here. We also need you to help recommend buying equipment from our store, which is completely understandable if you're working in a music store. And I would haul my drums in and out. And I thought, you know what? If these people would be willing to travel just a little bit farther, because we lived on a farm, I could teach drum lessons out at my dad's shop. And so that's what I did. And I did that for like another 2 years. So while I was in high school, and then a little bit out of high school, I taught drum lessons. Then I hit the road touring with bands and so on. So I didn't teach for a while. But with the kind of momentum and the popularity that the bands I was playing in was achieving, I would have people approach me frequently about if I taught drum lessons, especially if I was in town. And again, I didn't have a place to do it, and I didn't know how I would do it, and all of those kind of things. Well, Midline ended up with this really great rehearsal space over off of Cole Road, which is now the Yamaha golf cart dealership. So if you're ever out South Cole and you're past Costco and you see the Yamaha golf cart dealership, that was Midline's rehearsal space. So it was cool because it was a big room, had a bathroom, all those kind of things, parking lot, and we were always set up to rehearse. So I taught drum lessons out of there on Saturdays mostly, and I think I had 6 or 7 students. And what I didn't realize was happening at the time was that I'm relaying the same information basically over and over and over to different people. And you get to know those different people, and some people learn at different rates, and some people understand things faster than others. And so you're constantly making these adjustments on how you're teaching and what you're teaching and why you're teaching those things. Because ultimately I just wanted them to become the best drummer that they could be. And, you know, usually they had a goal in mind. Maybe they just want to play in the garage and play to the radio, or maybe they're in school and they're in their band program or whatever. They just need extra help outside of school, which I think that if you're in school, taking private lessons is such a benefit to your overall musical talents and abilities. It's a really great, whatever instrument you play, I would find a private instructor that can help you with that outside of your normal band program. It's just a great way to accelerate your abilities. So when I built this room that I'm in right now, I built it 10 years ago, and first of all, I just built it for me. I built it so I could have a place at home where I could practice and not bother the family or the neighbors. And so once I had this room built, again, I started having people approach me about teaching drum lessons because they'd see me play with Midline or with Cure for the Fall or these cover bands or whatever I was doing or playing at church, those kind of things. And so I took on like 2 or 3 students, and I thought, okay, I'll just teach them after work, on the weekend, or wherever I had. And I was teaching an hour lesson. Hour lessons are way too long. Half hour is a lot better. But at any rate, so, and then I put it out on Facebook, you know, hey, I'm thinking about teaching drum lessons and taking on more students, and was just kind of polling the audience a little bit, like, what do you think? And one of my friends, Kim, she said something that really stuck with me, and I wrote it down. It's number one is, do you like to teach? And I think that's an important question to ask anybody that you're going to take lessons from. Do they enjoy teaching? If they enjoy teaching, your experience is going to be much, much better than if it's, I'm just doing this to make some extra cash. Having an income is important, don't get me wrong, but do you love to teach? Do you like teaching? Is it in your wheelhouse of things that you want to do? Because, you know, I was performing a lot, and I still perform a lot, and I do have a lot of things that are going on. But now, teaching is my main source of income now that I have 40 students. I've been doing this for several years now. And again, all of that doesn't necessarily qualify me to be a teacher. Like if I had all this experience up till this exact point and then I decided, okay, today's my first day of teaching, like what qualifies me as being a teacher? I would say that it's knowledge, understanding, and ability. Like, do you have those 3 things? Knowledge, understanding, and ability. And if you have the knowledge and the understanding of that knowledge and the ability of those other 2 things, then you probably could teach. And then teaching is the thing that just becomes refined the more you do it, I belong to some drum teacher community forums on Facebook and other social media things, and it's really interesting to see the vast variety of people who not only teach drums, but who are wanting to get into drum teaching, and they're navigating all these obstacles that I navigated years ago. And the one thing is you just have to start doing it. So number 1, do you love to teach? Number 2, do you have the knowledge, understanding, and ability, you know, personally, and to be able to pass that information along? I don't have a college degree. And for some teaching opportunities, like there's some music schools and things like that's like a qualification, is to either have or be pursuing a music degree in college or at a university. I've even had students of those programs come to me saying, the stuff that I'm learning, some of this is a real flyover view, and they're not able to absorb the information or apply it quick enough in this pursuit of this degree. And so I've had a handful of those people come to me and say, hey, I need extra attention. Again, this is going back like, okay, I'm not a college professor. These students are taking lessons or taking school from college professors, and they're still not able to connect the dots. So they come to Fred Fisher, the Fred Rock School of Drumming, and they want extra attention on how to do these things, which is really interesting. Again, like I don't have a degree, but I have that passion, and again, when you get one-on-one attention with somebody, that really can accelerate understanding and those abilities. And so, again, I started out at 17 years old. I had really great private teachers. My band teacher at school was awesome. And then I was always pursuing opportunities because my ultimate goal was to be a rock star. So that was like what I was always pursuing. Now, at the age of 50, I'm pursuing being a hired gun. So my goal right now, while I'm teaching outside of that and recording music, is to become a hired gun. Like I've used Tesla for an example several times on these video series, because that's a situation where Troy Luccketta was leaving the band for a couple of years to focus on whatever he was doing. And so I want to be on that radar of when they're like, we need a Fred Fisher to come tour with this band. So that's like my number one goal. But all of this experience and all these different situations have really formed how I play and how I perceive things and what works and what doesn't work. So I just take all that information and now I'm relaying that to students. And I believe you need to have a super, super solid foundation. So all my students do learn to read drum music. So when we're looking at drum music, I don't have a book here close enough for an example, but we're not looking at A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We're looking at this line is the bass drum, this line is the hi-hat, this line is the hi-hat foot, this is the snare drum, these are the toms, and so on. And so it looks like pitched percussion, but it's not. It's just like these rhythms fit on these lines and are related to these drums or these cymbals. So my students learn how to read that. They learn how to keep time so that they can have steady time. So we do work with metronome and those kind of things. And then there's a set of exercises, and then we apply those to learning different songs, and that hopefully all of that combined is to help develop their own artistic license, their abilities to take what they've learned and apply it to what situation they're in. And maybe someday those people become students. Right now I have students that range in the age from 4 years old to 72. And that's another thing with teaching is like, sometimes teachers only can relate to people that are within a certain time frame or age group to what they are. So if I'm 50, maybe the other drum teachers who are 50 can only relate to people maybe between the ages of 40 and 60. Now, I'm a parent. I have 4 sons, and my youngest is 9, and my oldest is about to be 21. So I've had a lot of experience of dealing with children. And so when you're working with a 4-year-old drum student, you're going to work with that student a lot different than somebody who is a teenager or somebody who is in their 30s or somebody who is in their 70s. And you have to be able to learn quickly how to navigate all of those things. The other thing about being a great teacher is being a people person. Can you get along with people really well? Do you have the personality to do that? And then also like how you speak to people. You know, it can't be all like, hey dude, you know, we're just gonna do the thing and then we're gonna, you know, we're just gonna boosh gosh through this and it's gonna be awesome. You know, yeah, you can have that excitement, but you need to speak to them in a professional manner. You know, yes, you want to be friendly, you want to be friends, and that's the other thing, like being a people person, like I get to know my students pretty well, and the more comfortable they get with me and the more comfortable I became with them, this friendship grows. And also that friendship will grow with younger students and their parents. You know, sometimes it's the grandparents that bring them to lessons all the time because mom or dad are at work, and you get to know those people. So you're building these relationships constantly. And this trust happens out of that, and this confidence that they are safe to be here. You know, this is a safe place. This is a safe space. And everything here is on the level. And it's really cool. And all of this stuff just comes together after years and years and years and years of doing this. So that's what helps become a great teacher, is the years of experience doing it. And so if you're wanting to become a music teacher, like you're going to teach privately out of your home, it's not just the doors open and suddenly all this stuff happens. It's one step, and there's a lot of factors, like I'm saying, that I'm glancing at my list here because I didn't want to miss anything, but I think I might have mentioned earlier, like being good at your instrument doesn't necessarily make you a good teacher. It makes you personally good, but it's how do you relay that information to others. The other thing is, like, you know, I just talked about building a relationship with people. It's learning to navigate people's feelings and emotions. You know, I've had students come in here, they're super down, and there's endless reasons why somebody would be down. They have kind of a dark cloud over their head that day, and I look at that as an opportunity, like, okay, for the next 30 minutes, we're going to forget all about that. That's gone. We're going to focus on this fun thing that we're going to do. And, you know, some of the female students come in, and I've had them just break down in tears because they're not getting it, or something happened at school or whatever, and you just kind of sit here going, okay, well, you know, you just help them navigate through that for the next 30 minutes. And while I worked at Mountain View High School for 5 years, working with the drum line, and then my second year there, I started the indoor percussion program, which is a super cool deal. If you've never seen indoor drumline stuff, that's a whole nother world. But again, when I was working at Mountain View, I'm dealing with teenagers, you know, incoming freshmen to outgoing seniors, and even though that's like a 4 to 5 difference in age, there's a lot of growing up that's happening in that amount of time, and a lot of different emotions that are happening. It's just how teenagers are. And being that I have teenagers myself, there's grumpiness happening for no reason, or at least in my opinion, no reason for, you know, for what they have. They have a reason that they're being grumpy. Just kids are changing so fast in such a short amount of time. And then again, the ability levels can be vastly different from incoming freshmen to seniors. And so you're trying to find some sort of balance in there so the whole group can play really well together. And now that I'm not there anymore, which I've always been a little bummed about, but I really needed to focus on my private teaching thing and my recording situation and all that. So what qualifies me as a teacher? Knowledge, understanding, and ability. And being able to navigate people of all kinds, and all ages, and all abilities. And it's really super cool, and I just love where I am with that right now.